Alright, and I am back. As you can see, I've finished up making 5 points on our snowflake here, and we just have the 2 tails left to make our final and 6th point. I did get a little carried away and actually went ahead and started one of them, but we're going to finish the rest of this up together. So we're just going to continue doing the same thing, making these sub-branches as we go on up. Really the only difference in this step is going to come at the top. And also, it is different in that you're making both of these simultaneously again, so you can try and get them to match more easily, I suppose. Okay, so now all we have to do is finish up the top right here and add on a little ring so that we can put a bail on this to make it into a pendant. So instead of making this this top spike here the same length as the others, I'm actually going to make it a little bit shorter so that when we add the ring on top, it'll kind of be an optical illusion where it looks like it's a similar length. So what I'm going to do is, gripping on one side here, I'm going to take one of these tails to the side, and this is about 1/8 of an inch up from the previous bend right here. And the other one I'm going to grip at the same place, about 1/8 of an inch up, and we're just going to make a little, kind of a little dog leg. So I'm going to one side first, and then leaving a little bit of space, I'm going to take that back up again. So there's kind of just a little ripple off to the side like that. Then I'm going to start wrapping this tail that's going sideways around the tail that's going straight up. So I'm going to make sure that these are meeting together nicely so that all the branches are hitting at the same place. And I'm going to grip both of these right below where I'm going to start wrapping. And go ahead and transfer hands there. And then I'm going to take my second pair of chain nose pliers and start wrapping this around. I'm going to make 2 or 3 complete wraps. Then I'm going to snip off the excess. Snug down the end here. And once again, make sure that everything is meeting up like it should be. Okay. And then we're going to make a very small little loop with our round nose pliers. And I think I am going to try and make this a wrapped loop if I can here, just so it's a little bit more secure. So there we go. We've finished with the snowflake part, and you can at this point make any little adjustments you need to so that everything is as symmetrical as you can get it. And I think that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and start on the next step, which is going to be taking our 26 gauge dead soft wire. I'm using silver filled. And we're going to start cutting some little pieces, probably about, I don't know, 1¼ inches long. Maybe a little less than that. And you'll want 6 of these. Once you have all 6 of your 26 gauge pieces, I'm just going to bend them all into a U shape with a small space in between. Set those aside and take just one of them. And with these pieces, what we're going to do is actually put them on at the bottom of each point or branch, and we're going to be tying these together right there. And this will provide more stability for your snowflake. So I've placed the U portion over that. I'm gripping it with my thumb and pointer finger, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this tightly. I'm just using my chain nose pliers to get them to crisscross, grabbing one end of it with my pliers, the other with my fingers, and I'm going to tug that as tight as I can get it. And then you're just going to start wrapping this around, getting it as snug as you can. So let me take one end and wrap this. And then taking the other end, we're going to wrap that one as well. Alright, and once you have as many wraps as you can fit on there, I'm going to take both ends to the back where I can trim off any excess wire that we have. So as you can see, we have bound that point together, and that really helps it helps the snowflake to keep its structure and make sure that everything is lined up properly. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the rest of my 5 little pieces, just placing them over each join there and wrapping it around 5 or 6 times, and then I'll come back and we'll do the next step. So for the next step, which is going to be adding the crystal cluster to the center of this snowflake, you want to go ahead and cut 3 pieces of your 26 gauge dead soft wire, and they're each going to be about 2 inches long, so 3 pieces, each 2 inches long. And what we're going to be doing with these is stringing the crystals on them. So we're going to have 2 crystals on each of these 3 pieces of wire, and the wire is going to be running between opposite sides wrapped around these circular loops here. So we're going to be wrapping one end of the wire at this junction right here and the other right here at this opposite end. So to start out, let me go ahead and take my 26 gauge wire, and I'm going to feed it right through this circle right here. And I'm going to start wrapping the end. You want to center it so that you have pretty much equal amounts of wire on either side, here and here. And then you're going to just start wrapping this. I'm going to bring it up through the center here, trying to get it as tight as possible, and going down again through the center of that little loop there. And I'm going to keep doing that several times until I have wrapped this at least 3 or 4 times around this junction right here. Alright, so I've wrapped this several times right at the bottom of this little loop here. I'm going to simply trim off the excess wire. Got a little tail sticking out there. And tighten down that end. And then I'm going to go ahead and slide on 2 of my 3mm crystals. There's 1. And 2. And I want to make sure that this wire is nice and straight and fairly taut, running right across to the opposite circle portion. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, feeding this wire through. And wrapping it around that juncture right there. So you want this to be snug but not so tight that it's distorting the shape of your snowflake. So I'm going to continue feeding this through and wrapping it until I have 3 or 4 wraps, or I've used up the rest of my wire tail. So as you can see, we now have 1 of our wires and 2 of our crystals on here. We're going to continue doing the same thing with the other 2 wires we have, just running from opposite sides of the snowflake here. So let me go ahead and begin wrapping one side of this wire. So now that I have another side of this wire attached down here, I'm going to do the same thing, sliding on 2 crystals. And the only thing we're going to do different is that you want 1 crystal to be on the left side of where it crosses our first wire, and the other crystal to be on the right side. Just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and, once again, keeping it straight and taut, I'm going to wrap this end right through our opposite circle. Alright, and for our final piece, we're going to do the same thing on our last 2 circles, adding 2 more crystals. One's going to go here, and one's going to go here. So let me go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and finish up together. Alright, so here we have our completed pendant with the crystal cluster in the center. And one little note as you're making the crystal cluster, each time you make this pendant, you might wind up with a slightly different size center opening. That's perfectly alright. If you can't fit 6 crystals in there with this arrangement, you can do fewer crystals, obviously. Or if there's not room for the 6th one to go in this nice little ring shape, you can kind of have it in the center here, sort of over the others. That's also a good option. Or you might find that you need to add a few extra crystals. So really just go with it, and don't be concerned if it's not exactly the same as the previous time you made it. As far as finishing this up to be a pendant, you'll want to add a bail on top here. I have done a video tutorial on how to make just the right kind of bail for that, You can go ahead and click here if you want to see that. If you wanted to make these into earrings, you could also very simply add an ear wire right here on this little top ring. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and didn't find it too very difficult. Please do give it a try, don't be intimidated by it. And as always, if you enjoyed this, please do click the like button and subscribe for more tutorials. I do have many more in the works that I'll be getting out to you eventually. And of course, if you could take a few moments to check out my Etsy shop and Facebook page, that would be wonderful. The links are in the description section below. So thanks for watching and happy crafting!